The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. A certain Pharisee invited Jesus to dine with him. And he entered the Pharisee's house and reclined at table. Now, there was a sinful woman in that city who learned that he was at table in the house of the Pharisee. Bringing an alabaster flask of ointment, she stood behind him at his feet, weeping, and began to bathe his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and anointed them with the ointment. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, "If this man were a prophet, he would know who and what sort of woman this is who is touching him, that she is a sinner." Jesus said to him in reply, "Simon, I have something to say to you." "Tell me, teacher," he said. Jesus said, "Two people were in debt to a certain creditor. One owed 500 days' wages, and the other owed 50. Since they were unable to repay the debt, he forgave it for both. Which of them will love him more?" Simon said in reply, "The one, I suppose, whose larger debt was forgiven." Jesus said to him, "You have judged rightly." Then he turned to the woman and said to Simon, "Do you see this woman? When I entered your house, you did not give me water for my feet, but she bathed them with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but she has not ceased kissing my feet since the time I entered. You did not anoint my head with oil, but she anointed my feet with ointment. So I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, hence she has shown great love. But the one to whom little is forgiven loves little." He said to her, "Your sins are forgiven." The others at table said to themselves, "Who is this who even forgives sins?" But Jesus said to the woman, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace." Sisters and brothers, the Gospel of the Lord. My dear sisters and brothers, the Gospel of the day comes to us painting a contrast between individual and individual, between the way we think and the way God thinks. I like the way it starts. Jesus turns to Simon and says, "Simon, I have something to say to you." You know, the Lord who reads our minds and hearts has so much to tell us. He knows how we look upon the other, how we convict, how we condemn and judge people. And knowing our thoughts, reading our mind and our hearts, if Jesus were to say to us, calling us by name, I have something to say to you, what would that something be? Notice how Simon is presented in the gospel of the day, Simon the Pharisee and not the apostle, as someone who judges wrongly, someone who judges harshly. He looks at the woman and says, oh, this woman, this sinful creature, why on earth is she here? And so, he is the one that starts off judging and judging wrongly. And that is why, when after narrating a parable to him, Jesus would turn to him and say, you have judged rightly. I love that contrast. I love the way Jesus takes a jibe at him and says, now you have judged rightly and not earlier. My dear sisters and brothers, the one word that I want to leave with you today is grace. It's a happy coincidence that word got mentioned so many times in the first reading of the day, where Paul speaks of God's grace at work in him. By the grace of God, I am what I am, he would say. And there is also the so-called sinful woman in the gospel of the day who probably could tell us, by the grace of God, I am what I am. Even if you forget all that I told you, I wish you would remember just this. Grace meets us where we are, but never leaves us where it finds us. I repeat, grace meets us where we are, but never leaves us where it finds us. It lifts us up, it raises us up, it purifies us, cleanses us, sanctifies us, and leads us home to God's house. For grace is nothing but the love of God at work in us. And so I say it again. The grace of God meets us where we are, but never leaves us where it finds us. Let's thank God for His grace.